Home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Wu for the win. Team Canada. Garrett Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chapa.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo, living in St. Catharines, Ontario. Originally from the greatest city in the world, Toronto. Being joined by a reoccurring host here, or guest host, Kelsey Hayden from the true East Coast.
I am from the true East Coast because I'm originally from St. John's, Newfoundland, but I currently live in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, Kelsey's on because we had talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think, folks, because I think we were recapping Beach, and then we said, we should probably do a PAUC preview because we didn't realize how many Canadian teams are going. So we're doing that today. Teams. But and Kelsey, you're one of them, actually. So how are you preparing for the great sunny weather that awaits you in the Dominican Republic?
I have bought my favorite sunscreen, legitimately.
You do
restocked.
Need that.
I do really need that. I have two bottles of sunscreen that I'm bringing. Got my sun hoodies. I'm packing extra snacks this time. I'm checking a luggage for the first time in years, so I feel like I have so much space to bring fun things like spike ball and yeah, just really, really excited for the tournament, but also really, really excited for the beach vacation. So kind of preparing and excited for both.
It's on a resort, is that correct? Or close to one? Is that, or most people are staying at a resort? Is that how it's working?
Yeah, exactly. So I think most people, or at least most Canadian teams, are staying at all-inclusive resorts. I think that's just kind of not easiest. I mean, maybe easiest, not cheapest, but way to kind of go to Dominican. And the tournament had advertised a bunch of different rates at resorts. I've never been on all-inclusive before now, so I don't really even know if those rates were good. But yeah, that's kind of what my team and many, many other teams are doing, is staying for the full week at the all-inclusive and then playing the tournament from Tuesday to Saturday, are the actual games.
Hey, you hopefully brought some jerseys because you're going to be playing teams from around that area, so that'll be super fun. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today, folks. So we're not going to waste your time or our time. We're just going to jump right into the main event, which is going to be talking about PAUC. We're going to do that right after the break.
Hey, this is Daniel I, co-founder and captain of Danger Noodle, your 2022 CUC co-bronze medalist. And you're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
All right, so PAUC preview. This tournament hasn't happened in, was the last one
2019?
20. Okay, there you go, 2019. I was going to ask. That was a little bit ago. Of course, COVID to account for that. This tournament normally happens every 2 years. Is that right?
I think so, yeah, because when I was looking at previous results, there were results from 2017 and 2019. So I assume it was supposed to happen in 2021, and then obviously that was still kind of in the thick of it.
Yeah, and we had talked about at Beach where there were less teams. I would say that that's sort of similar to this tournament. I don't know if this tournament's kind of feeling the effects of maybe some of the extra tournaments that have been happening, but there are full divisions. And we're going to break that down. So we're going to start in women's. Kelsey, you're going to break it down for us. Hey, this is the easiest one to break down because it's traditional 16 going on, right?
Yeah, it's nice even number, 16 teams, no wonky formats, pretty much exactly what you would expect. So there's, I guess the one unusual thing, and you'll see this in a few of the divisions, is that there's not a traditional, 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, 5 seed, so forth. There's 4 number 1 seeds, there's 4 number 5 seeds, there's 4 number 9 seeds, and there's 4 number 13 seeds. So what I mean by that is basically they've kind of tiered everybody into top tier, second tier, third tier, fourth tier, and that's how they've made their pools. So as you'd expect with 16 teams, there's 4 pools to start. For the number 1 seeds, we do actually have a Canadian as one of those number 1 teams. We have 4 Canadian women's teams. I should have mentioned that off the top, but that's really fun, really good Canadian representation in this division, and actually in all divisions, I think it's safe to say. But Cube from Quebec City, they are actually one of the number 1 seeds. So basically, when they constructed the pools, each pool just has one team from each tier. So it's hard to know exactly who the true number 1 seed is or the true number 5 seed or whatever, but it's a good nod to be one of those top seeded teams. So their roster seems to be quite similar to CUC, and they have their top 5 scorers from CUC are on this team. So that's great. It seems like they're going to have lots of chemistry. Obviously, they must have practiced a lot all season, and they're in a pool that could be quite favorable. I mean, they are the number 1 seed in that pool, so hopefully they do really well. But they're with a Colombian team called Bamboo, which actually I played against in Worlds last summer with Salty. They beat us by 1. And
tough.
They're with a team from Panama and then a team from Argentina. So, if Cube holds seed, then they'll be going into the bracket round, which is the second part of the tournament, which I'll get into in a second. They'll be going in a very favorable spot. So that's pretty cool. But like I said, there are actually 4 Canadian women's teams. So the next team kind of to touch on, or the next 2 teams are both those number 5 seeds. So like I said, it's impossible to know, I guess, who is technically higher, but Stella and Venus are both in that second tier, the number 5 tier. So let's talk about Stella first. I'm intimately familiar with Stella, having played against them so many times in my Salty career, and now playing with their mother team, Stello. But Stella's from Ottawa. Everyone knows this. They did well at CUC this year. They have, I would say, an interesting group just compared to, it's not exactly their CUC roster. They have some pickups. They have a lot of people from PPF, I think, if I'm recognizing those names correctly. They have someone from Union, Tasha McFarland. I know there's a couple of people who recently played on Salty who are playing with them. My friends Amanda Ring and Lori Starr. So yeah, it's a slightly different looking Stella than usual, but Stella's always good for performing in big moments. So they also have had success at PAUC before, if I recall correctly. I have not fact checked this, but I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, they came second in 2019. I believe they lost in the final to Revolution, if I can recall that correctly. If I'm wrong, just take the credit anyways. It's fine. Interestingly, they're actually in a pool with Revolution again. So they're going to get to do a rematch. They're also against Spanglish, which is from Venezuela, and a team from the Dominican Republic. So a home team, which is pretty fun. So we'll see how they do. But they're in a good position as well. Like I said, they're in that second tier of teams. And then alongside them in the second tier of teams, but in a different pool, obviously, is Venus, who are from Montreal. So they came 8th at CUC. Interestingly, and this is not an uncommon theme for if you look at PAUC rosters for the ones that have been posted, they're going with a pretty small team. They have, I think, 16 people on their roster. And the schedule, I'm pretty sure, is at least 7 games in this division. So that could be tiring, but they're not in the Masters division. They're young, they're spry, they'll be fine. But yeah, 5 of their 6 double-digit scorers from CUC are going, so that's obviously promising. I think they have a really good roster set up, and obviously they're going to have chemistry with each other from playing all season. And they have some, promising university kids, or they have a team that has a lot of promise, and we'll see if they can reach their potential. So in their pool, they have a Colombian team as well. There are a lot of Colombian teams attending this tournament in most divisions. So they have a Colombian team. They have another home team, so a Dominican Republic team, and then they have a team from Mexico. So that's the 4. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I missed one team. I just realized that there's actually a 5th Canadian team in the women's division, which is Remix. I don't know how I missed them, but that's crazy. So 5 out of 16 teams are actually from Canada. That's awesome.
No, it's only 4. You're right.
I think is there not?
Cube,
is Remix not there?
Cube, Stella, Venus, Remix. That's 4.
Oh, I'm just counting wrong. Oh my God, how silly.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
I think it was because I mentioned Stella
fans.
and Venus multiple times. That's funny. Anyways, Remix, I was going to say, I was like, why do I have this written? So anyways, Remix is from Alberta, and they are one of the third tier teams. So basically one of the 9 seeds. Like I said, it's that weird format where you're either 1, 5, 9, or 13. So they're a 9, which means they're the third team in their pool. And they finished 7th at CUC. So they had a really respectable CUC run as well. They have one of the really top scorers from CUCs, Erin, I'm going to butcher her last name, Bethune? I'm not sure how to say. But anyways,
I think you got it.
Interesting. Okay, I usually pronounce things wrong when I guess. Anyways, yeah, she had 26 points at CUC, and she's coming along. So is Paula Wong. And a very fun addition, or a very fun player name to see, Terry Whitehead, the legend. Probably don't need to explain exactly why she's legendary, but she is also on Remix. So that's a huge player to have on your roster. So they're in Pool D. Like I said, they're the third seed in their pool. And who they're going to play is actually 2 Colombian teams. So like I said, Colombia is very well represented at this tournament. And then a team from Mexico. So that's actually our 4th team. Sorry for my miscounting. But like we said, we have Cube, Stella, Venus, and Remix. So that's 4 Canadian teams. So a quarter of the women's division is from Canada, which is sick. So after they do their pool play, which is, all very traditional, then they're just going to go into a 16-round bracket. So pre-quarters, quarters, semis, finals. Very simple. Like you said, 16 is the best number for making a tournament. And then it's just going to be kind of duke it out and see what happens. But it's fun. They're it's going to be really interesting to see. I think it actually works out that, every Canadian team is in a different pool, which is nice. So they won't meet until at least bracket play. And I really hope that they go deep. I would say that Cube and Stella do have the best chances. I don't know who I would put the edge. I would probably give the edge to Cube because they have more of their CUC roster playing, and so they just are going to have more chemistry, I would suspect. But I think that a Canadian team could go deep in this tournament, which is really cool. So we'll cross our fingers and hope that happens.
And the Revolution team that you mentioned, you are correct, by the way. I did fact check you while you were talking. That is correct.
Thank you.
It's not going to be the same Revolution team.
I don't think
so. Because a lot of their players went to that new Colombian team.
Yes.
So it's going to be a bit different. And interestingly enough, this 16 team, you don't normally see this like at USAU. There's the 2-3 crossover. Here, it's like the 1A will play 4D. So hey, even if you come 4th in the pool, you have a chance to still make the final, which is kind of weird. It means pool play. Yeah,
I think it could really matter. For some of those middle teams, trying to line up your matchup later in the bracket will probably where you finish in pool play could really affect that. Obviously you don't want to meet the overall number 1 seed, which I think is Revolution technically. You probably don't want to meet them. You want to meet them as late as possible, basically. So anyways, we'll see. But I do really like it. It's very March Madness style, 1 versus 16. We could have a Cinderella story. Who are the Retrievers this year going to knock out a number 1 seed?
Oh my gosh. I don't think a lot of people will get that reference. The first ever team.
That's a deep cut for true March Madness fans.
Yeah, the first ever 16 seed to beat a number 1. That was a pretty epic. I remember watching that. So we're hoping for some madness out there. We're going to jump into mixed here. Something we didn't even mention when we're talking about women's is there's not a single American team in the women's division.
So true.
Very interesting because you contrast that with mixed, and the top 3 seeds here or 3 of the 4 are U.S. teams. So Dragon Thrust, Noise, and Mischief, all teams that played. Wait, did Mischief make nationals? They did, right? USAU? So. Yes, I think they did. So all 3 teams having been at nationals. And then they're joined by Union. And I'm going to put Union in very big quotation marks here because it's not really Union, folks. I mean, it's Union by name. But, I got some of my old local 613 teammates out there on that roster. I see someone from Crank. I see Logan Keeler out there. Some people coming out of retirement like Ronald Sue and Jeff Wu. Rachel Mann from PBHG, I recognize. It's kind of a smorgasbord of players out here. Can they figure it out and get it together and make a big run? That's the question. They're going to be playing a team called McLeod of Panama, a Colombian team, Argentina, and then Chile. So you want some diversity of teams. You get that because you get to play some different countries. So that's pretty cool. Once again, they finished 2nd at CUC. Moving on to a team on the 5 line, that is Danger Noodle. They came third in 2022. They tied with TT. That's how they qualified for this tournament. They're bringing their players from 2022. I did a pickup with them recently, and their focus was bringing all those. I think the first invites were basically the players that were on that roster. They got invited first, which is kind of nice instead of the 2023 team. Kind of reward the team that got you there. You know what I mean? One of their games will be streamed. We didn't even talk about the streaming schedule, but one of their games will be streamed. So check that out. They get to play Noise. I think it's so cool that this team gets to play a team like Noise, which has done very well in the USA Youth Series. So that's pretty awesome. Get to play Avalon Ultimate Club out of Mexico and D-Crash out of Colombia. So that's who's in their pool. Then we have a team that I got to play at Nationals, which was really fun. TT out of Vancouver. I mentioned already that they tied for 3rd in 2022. They came 8th at Nationals recently. Actually lost to Danger Noodle in the 7-8 game. So there you go. Ricky Tran was on Furious, but he's going to be playing with them this year. They don't have Daniel Bauer, though, and you're going to see his name pop up for another team. But he was their leading point getter at CUC, so he's not there. However, their top female matching scorer, Claire Wang, is in the house. So, we'll see what they do. They get to play Dragon Thrust, which is like, once again, I look up to some of these US teams. I've heard them so many times. So the fact that these Canadian teams get to play them in pool play, you should be really excited if you're those teams, because it's just a really cool opportunity. They get to play Zen Ultimate Club, not the Zen out of Toronto, but a Zen out of Colombia. And then they play a Chile team and an Argentina team. The team names are really interesting as well. You should look them up on the PAUC website. And then the last team out of Canada is Crash out of Kitchener-Waterloo. They're one of the 13 seeds. They came 13th at CUC, so I guess that kind of lines up. Dwayne Neal is not going to be there. He was their top scorer. He's actually playing for another team at this tournament. Dan Balderson, who just played TC Beach, and John Hallett. Players not on this squad for this tournament. They do have their top female matching players back, like Julia Pedant, Diana Spataru. I hopefully got that right. They got vets out there like Neil Thomas and Kevin Chow. So we'll see what noise they make. They went to WUC in 2018, so they've done some world tournaments out here, and they get to play Mischief as well as a team from Colombia, Argentina, and Costa Rica. So
cool. Some
good, once again, more geographical diversity out here. 2 times 3 is the crossover. So this is actually crossovers here. The winner goes to quarters. If you win your pool, you get that bye. And then there's interesting brackets. There's like a 9 to 12, 13 to 16, and 17 to 19. So I don't know if I mentioned this at the top, but 19 teams is what makes up this division. Could they not get like another? For. Yeah, I was going to say, could they not just get like a 20th team out here?
Yeah, just throw a bone to anybody who's willing to go. Honestly.
Hey, you get to go for like half price or something. I don't know.
I would take that deal.
We're going to jump into open here. I'm going to keep going. 16 teams, so traditional bracket, fun stuff. Okay, so we got to get this. Kelsey, I'll let you break the news because we have to get this elephant out of the room. Because Omen was there. Hey, Omen was this team that beat GOAT last year and actually took out GOAT's bid. So Omen's like decent, but they're seeded 9th. And so is this other team, Kelsey. What's going on out here?
So if you were going to guess a team that's seeded 9th at this international tournament, just like a small town team from like a place you've probably never heard of, a team you wouldn't hear much about, there's no hype around them. New York Pony is one of the 9 seeds in the men's division, in the open division, I'm sorry. And, people have been pondering that for a few days. We've all been quite confused why that happened. But we did just recently see a roster. And that has now been explained. The pony roster that is going to PAUC is frankly unrecognizable from any pony roster I have ever seen. And it is interesting with these kind of international tournaments where, let's be honest, PAUC is probably not at the top of people's list in terms of tournaments that they're going to. And for a team like Pony that, is rostering many Team USA, but like a typical Pony team is rostering many Team USA players who were just at USAU Nationals, losing in quarters, and, very busy past few years for the elite Frisbee players of the US. I do just kind of wonder if they couldn't garner the interest for this one from their top players. They do have a few top players, but it's definitely a very different Pony roster than we have ever seen. So personally, the only name I recognized was John Randolph.
Yeah, I recognize Cam Warner, BVH. I think he might probably just coaching. Devin Cox, I recognize, but Michael Brenner as well. I think he played Pony before he played for Pitt. But honestly, looking at this list, Kelsey, it's really not Pony.
No. And so this is what I was going to say: is Pony earned the bid, and they earn the right to send a team, but then who you send on that team, because you earn the bid for some countries, at least in Canada, like you earn the bid like a year and a half before the event. Your roster could change significantly, and then like I said, I would suspect that many of the guys on Pony have had a lot of Frisbee commitments over the past year and a half, and maybe PAUC wasn't the very top of the list for where they could spend their time and money. That's speculation, but the roster is different.
I think people were thinking about that when they even got announced that they were going. They're like, Pony's going? Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
And so they're seeing the nine spot. Your 1 seeds, there's a Canadian team out here, General Strike, whoop, whoop. As well as Comunidad El Oso out of Colombia, Euro Monster out of Colombia, and then Warao out of Venezuela. And just a personal story here. I had a chance to call Warao's game at Worlds, and it was one of my favorite games I've ever called. Just to hear their story of a fallen teammate that was a big part of their community, and just like doing all that pregame and just hearing their passion for the sport and their community out in Venezuela. A lot of them having left that country due to economic things, they decided to go to live in other places. So that game's actually free on YouTube, I believe, still. Warao versus Free Speed. I think it was like a pre-quarter crossover at WUC. One of my favorite games to call. So personal touch there that Warao is at this tournament. Really cool. So looking at General Strike, they came second at CUC. They've added some PBHG people like they did in the fall. So they've added Will Medwig and Matthew Paget. However, if you look at their roster, there's some big names missing out here. So Matt Ladyman, Mark Lloyd, Quinn Snyder, just to name a few. They did add Mr. Ari Nakobe out of Furious. So nice little addition out there. They'll be playing Blue Devils out of Dominican Republic, Quake out of Quebec City. So, hey, Canadian teams, you actually get to be in the same pool, kind of, it is what it is. And El Combo out of Argentina. So Quake is the next team I'm going to talk about. They're one of the 9 seeds. They came 7th at CUC. Some big-time players are going, like Robin Dubé. I recognize that name. Nicolas Champagne, Vincent Genet. But their leading scorer, Remy Bordelot, is not in the lineup. So I remember talking to someone related or associated with Quake and talking about Laval's roster early in college. And I think some of those players wanted to go to PAUC instead. So they kind of focused their time on that. So hopefully that results in doing well at this tournament. AFC Rumble. AFC is still the best name in the game out of Alberta. One of the 5 seeds. They came 8th at CUC. They didn't have the best nationals. I think they would openly say that. I know they had a really bad day one. I remember that. There's no Alex Bedard or Nigel Lindsay on this team, but they got, my favorite school, Michigan State. They got their alumni, Dave Butters, Hawk Halter out here. He had 20 assists at CUC, and Brendan Lacey as well at 17. So those 2 players are going to be slinging the disc out in the Dominican for this Alberta team, and they're going to have to play the aforementioned Warao team as well as a team from Colombia. And I think it's said Phoenix out of Mexico. I don't want to screw that up, but they play a team out of Mexico. So pretty fun. And then the last open team, I don't think this team needs introduction because there was some controversy shrouding this team during the season. It even made its way into the Ultiworld Discord. Let's just say that about this team. So Hound out of Durham, Ontario.
How'd they do at CUCs this year?
I was going to say, you want me to say how they did? Unfortunately, they did. I put down DNQ, but they technically did qualify and then just got rescinded. So I guess technically qualified, but this is kind of an interesting team. They got. I know we said that before about Stella, but they got the kind of all-star team of players from around Toronto. They had like players like Adam Turcotte, and they have people that played Hound before, like Dan Wong, Keith McRae, Zach Armstrong, Kevin J out here, Oren Benoon, Oscar Stonehouse, Tyler Sadler. I could keep going, but they just added a lot of different players that have either played for Hound or associated with the team. Because obviously the Hound team that was fielded this year is very different. So kind of like a throwback Hound team, which is nice. Can these moving parts figure things out? That's the real question, because they're going to have to play Euro Monster out of Colombia, Condor, not to be mistaken with Condors out of the U.S.
I saw that.
This Condor team's out of Mexico. And then Omen out of Ohio. I don't think this is the same Omen team, because if this was real Omen, then there's no way they're seated that low, right? I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, so as of the time that we're recording, the rosters are not posted on the PAUC website, so that's worth mentioning that.
Terrible.
We can see some rosters on teams' Instagram pages and stuff like that. That's how we're inferring some of this information, but it is tricky because not every team posts a roster on Instagram, and yeah, they're just not posted on PAUC. So some of this is speculation, which is a bit frustrating. But we're doing the best we can.
Well, the Canadian rosters at least are there. So
yes.
I told a friend this and he went crazy because he loves this. He got nerds out on this kind of stuff. So if you search up PAUC 2023 and then Ultimate Canada in Google, you'll be able to reach the page. You have to be signed into your Ultimate Canada account, folks.
Right.
If you don't, then you won't be able to see anyone. But you can see all the rosters. That's where I'm getting all this information because not all the teams are active on socials or posting their actual roster. So we're going off of who's registered with Ultimate Canada to go. So
right.
That's what we have here. So speaking of people that are going, that is you. We're going to talk about that division next, which is Masters Women's. No Grandmasters out here, folks, but we got Masters divisions.
We do have Masters, which is so young for women's anyways. It's 30 plus. But yeah, so Masters Women's Division is a small one, I will admit. It's only 8 teams, and half of them are Canadian. So unfortunately, we don't have the same geographic diversity that the other divisions have. So we have 4 Canadian teams, 3 American teams, and 1 Colombian team. Fortunately, our format is just one big pool, which means that we do get to play every team, which is nice. I know that leads to a lot of games, but it does mean that we get to play everybody, which is exciting. So the 3 American teams are Old Bay, Aged Cheddar, and Mint, and then the Colombian team is Calypso. So I've been creeping around trying to figure out these teams and what their deal is. There's some footage from these teams, the American teams in 2022 USAU Masters. But like I said, without the official rosters, it's really hard to know what to expect and who's going to show up. And then Calypso, they post some stuff on Instagram, but I don't know any of the players on their team. It was no names that I recognized. But let's talk about the Canadian teams because I do know those. So the top seed, which I will also say that the seeding in this pool doesn't necessarily matter because you're just one giant pool. But technically, the top Canadian seed is Stello, which is the team that I'm playing on. And they're based out of Ottawa, of course, but we do have a few people from Halifax as well. The top scorer from CUCs, my girl Jessie Brown, is on the squad. She's my roomie for the week. So no big deal, but she is going, and she's going to crush it as always. We've also we do have a few losses. We don't have MC Jacques, we don't have Melissa Dunbar, but we do have great people again like Alicia Zhao. We have Adria Quigley again. We also added Julie Landry, who I have played with. She came to Halifax for a tournament last year and played at C4UC with my team. Unfortunately, she did get injured, but she's okay now, and she's a great player, so she's an awesome pickup. But yeah, it's a fairly similar team to CUC's. A few different pieces and a few people missing, a few people added, but it should be a great squad. We're really, really excited. The 5th seed in the Women's Masters is our common opponent, which is Macrame, and they're out of Montreal. So we played them at CUC's. They were when I was not on Stello in 2022, but they were in the final against Stello in 2022. They're a great team, and they're really, really fun to play against as well. So they have a similar roster to CUC, so I think they'll be well prepared. They have most of their kind of big production players going, so they should also do quite well. Then the 3rd Canadian team, which is the 6th seed overall in the Women's Masters, is Aguata. So they're from Gatineau. They didn't attend CUC, although they did attend Nobo, and I played against them when I played with Salty. Salty was a very developmental year this year, so it was hard to get a gauge on the...
I hope too many Salty people aren't listening to this and they're hearing
Salty, you have to have development years, but, we'll call a spade a spade. Wasn't our best performance year, but we did what we could. And so we did play Aguata, so I actually have played them personally. And they seem like a solid team, but like I said, it was hard for me to tell necessarily because I will be playing on a very different team when I play them next time. But they're coming from Gatineau. I did talk to them after the game, and they were really pumped. They were saying they weren't going to CUCs, but they were going to PAUC, and they were super stoked on that. And then the last Canadian team is Quasar from Quebec City. So they're the 7th seed overall. But like I said, the seeds don't really matter in women's masters anyways, because we're all in one pool. They have some of their top scorers going from CUCs. So again, they should have good chemistry. I assume they've been building on that since the end of July. And so, yeah, it's cool to see a lot of Canadian representation, obviously 4 out of 8 teams. On a personal level, I would rather play team, I would be more exciting to play teams from other countries and other areas. But you know what? It's all really fun. We're all very lucky to get to go. And so I'm still stoked. And so it'll be interesting to see how we can all do. But the format of ours, like I said, it's just one giant pool. So we play every team to start. And then interestingly, it just goes straight to semis and finals and third place. And there are no consolation games scheduled. So the bottom 4 women's masters team, they play their 7 pool play, and that's it. And then the top 4 women's masters guarantee play 2 more. They play the semi and then either the final or the third place game. So you're either playing 7 games or 9 games in women's master, and it is funny going on a trip like this. If you get knocked out before, say, the semis, I think that you'll be able to come to terms with that, that outcome quicker when you can just chill on the beach at an all-inclusive for an extra day. So, I think
it reduces the sting a bit, is what you're telling me.
100%. I think there's definitely an obvious silver lining for any time that you get knocked out of this tournament. So, yeah, that's the format for Women's Masters, which is an interesting one. But our team is really hopeful that we have 9 games, and I hope how cool would it be if all the Canadian teams did. But we'll see what happens.
Top four. That's the hope. The real question is how many people are going to be trading with the team from Colombia?
I know they're going to get bombarded.
They're going to get bombarded with trades because all the American and Canadian teams are going to say, "Hey, we don't need the Canadian American gear. We want some of that other gear." So
anyone else?
That'll be interesting. Are you bringing a lot of jerseys, Kelsey? That's a real question.
I'm not going to bring a lot. I'm going to bring a couple. I like jersey trading only when the trades are really good for me. So I've been lucky. I've had some good opportunities to trade jerseys. I got some nice ones at Windmill this year. I had some good ones at Worlds last year. I'm bringing a couple of jerseys, but I'm not someone who's like eager to, I don't ever trade the jerseys I actually have as kit for that tournament. Because I like those jerseys generally. So I usually trade other random ones. Like I've traded layout jerseys and things like that and gotten really good trades for them. But yeah,
I'm
not a huge
you're a jersey
trader.
Fleacer is what you're telling me. You're
basically I like wheel and deal and somehow always come out on top. So
you perceive to come out on top. The other person might think they're coming out on top.
And you know what? Good for them if they want to think that. But I've got some sick jerseys, so I am going to bring a few, and I'm going to bring a couple for my partner as well because he's not attending, and see if I can get some good trades. Maybe all those pony random people would want to trade. Probably not. They probably want to hold on to those pony jerseys.
Yeah, those pony jerseys are going to. You know, what'd be really funny though. If they just went in with cotton T-shirts,
yes,
or T-shirt company, just pony jerseys,
it's
not
like
the
a cartoon
actual
lion on it.
Yeah, not the actual pony jerseys, because you gotta earn that lion on your chest out here, and really make, because I'm sure the tryouts are like a gauntlet to get through. So
must be.
Yeah, I bet you every open team's gonna try to trade for a pony. I'm gonna put that in quotation marks jersey. Mm-hmm. We gotta move on though. I know you're not here, folks, for just the banter. You're here for a preview, so we're gonna keep going. Masters mix. Kelsey, you're going to break down some Masters mix here for us.
Sure. So again, a division with a lot of Canadian representation. So we have 13 teams in the division and 4 of them are Canadian teams. So it's going to start with one pool of 7 and one pool of 6. And the top 4 seeds are Super Dross, SOS, 512, and Antiques Roadshow, which are all from the USA. Antiques Roadshow is a really funny team name.
Yeah, I assume the Super Dross have the Dross brothers who play. I think they played Empire, but also exist and they played Pony in the past. So I assume that's where that name comes from.
Again, though, if only we could have a roster to confirm.
Yeah, this is just rumors at this point.
I know, we're just guessing. Anyways, yeah. So the top 4 seeds are all from the US. So good USA representation as well. But we do, like I said, have 4 Canadian teams, so that's fun. So Forever Young from Vancouver, who came 3rd at CUC, so a great showing at CUC. They are coming in at the 5th seed. And so some of the people that we talked about, what was the other team? What does TT stand for, by the way?
It's supposed to be,
Is it tougher together?
But I'm pretty sure it's Ted's. The rumor has it it's Ted's team.
Interesting.
Ted is the one who started it, so
that's funny.
Ted's
Good for
team.
Ted.
Good job, Ted.
Anyways, yeah, some of those TT people that weren't going or on TT are actually going with this team. So Daniel Bauer and Billy Chai, is that?
Yeah, Bill. I got to mark up against Billy Chai, so I got to give him a little shout out because he's a fan of the pod and he messages us, so it was fun to match up with him. At nationals. And I think someone's on the side was like, Billy, you're marking Theo, and I'm like, it's just another day in the office, just playing frisbee. So
do people ever like make
Billy.
jokes about the pod to you, like while on the field, like while you're playing defense on them, or while they're playing defense on you?
It happened one time at like touring tune-up. Some kid was like, "Oh, do you do the podcast?" And then I didn't like cut in the proper time, and I got yelled at for not cutting. And I was like, I got distracted. They're like, Theo, when you're playing, you're not a podcast. I was like, I know. So I would say that honestly, that was actually another side note here. That was actually probably one of the more difficult things at CUC was trying to balance covering it, but then also playing and like turning those different areas off. So
totally.
That's a little insight for the fans at home.
Interesting.
But I'll let you keep going.
Yeah. So who else do we have on Forever Young except Danny Proby, which people might be a little familiar with. So Forever Young, like I said, is the 5th seed, and then in their pool they have Superdross, which we said were from USA, and 512, which is also from USA. They have I can never say this. Pandemonium.
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 I think it's just Pandemonium.
It is?
I think
Okay.
I just spelled it wrong.
Fair.
Sorry.
From Canada.
Apologies on
so
that.
they have their Canadian friends who we'll talk about in a moment. Then we have a Mexico team and a team from Colombia. So that's who they have in their pool. They're in Pool B. So we'll see how they can do. And then Pandemonium. Oh my God, I still struggle with that word.
No, it's 'cause I spelled it wrong. It's supposed to be Pandemonium. I'm pretty
this
sure.
is beyond just that typo. I'm not good with that word. Pandemonium. I'd be horrible at cheering for that team. Anyways, they're from Ottawa. So they came 6th at CUC. There's a 7th seed going into this tournament. And they do still have their top point getters with the team. So we don't, we'll see how everybody does. But it seems like they're in a good position to do well again.
This is a time for a fun fact, though, folks, because
hit us.
Pandemonium actually didn't go to CUC in 2022. Another team from Ottawa did and actually technically earned the bid. But enough players went to this Pandemonium team so that somehow, I don't know how this, I guess it's within the rules, they claimed the bid for PAUC. So Pandemonium's a first-time team, and they're going to PAUC, folks.
That's interesting. And so I think that reflects kind of like Ultimate Canada's rules for qualifying for international events, and every country would have different rules. So, but obviously I'm only familiar with Ultimate Canada's, is that you need to have a certain number of players from the roster of the year that you qualified. And I think that's at least 50%, or it's like 50% or 12, whichever number, whatever it is. There's like some little like calculation to do, but that would explain how they could potentially qualify in that way. It is interesting though, because obviously the USA must not have similar roster rules based on this pony roster, for example. So I would actually be very curious what each country's kind of qualification rules are, because I have always found it quite fascinating when a team can differ so much from qualifying year to performance year. And this is not just for PAUC, this is for any international events. Ultimate Canada has their rules of there's like different classes of players and whatever. But it is interesting because obviously the US must not care at all.
Yeah, we need to call that team not Pony but Phony. That's my new name.
That's good.
Like, I should put that in the Discord. That would get some mad upvotes, I think.
Yeah, but now you've said it. So anyway, so that's I'm going to say it one more time. Pandemonium out of Ottawa. So our third Canadian team in the Masters Mixed Division is Cold. This is another team name I accidentally call wrong very often. I always call them Cold. But they're from Quebec, classic Q team. They were the CUC champs, and yet they're seeded very, very low. So they're seeded as the 9th seed. But pretty much the whole roster is the same as that gold medal team. They're in Pool A. They're against SOS, Antiques Roadshow, so they're both from the USA. They're from, this is cool, a team from the Virgin Islands. So that's really interesting. And they're also against a team from Colombia and a team from Mexico. So who knows? Maybe Cold is being set up for what will be perceived as a big upset that maybe we wouldn't necessarily think is much of an upset, since they obviously performed really well at CUCs. But that's kind of exciting. They could get some big wins here. And then the last Masters mixed team from Canada is another funny team name, which I really appreciate. It's Dinner at 4. And so they didn't attend CUCs in 2023. They are the 11 seed for this out of this 13-team division. But they are a mix of Masters players, I think from a few different teams, if I'm understanding correctly. I don't personally recognize a ton of the names, but Theo does know a few of the names from different places like Barrie and Ottawa and Kingston and kind of all around. They have some players from the Durham area, and I'm told they have a really good social media game, which, you know what, if you have a team name like Dinner at 4, you should have a really good social media game, because that's witty and that makes sense. But yeah, so that's the 4 Canadian teams in the Masters mixed division. So 4 of 13 teams, and we'll see how they do. But again, I think there's a really good prospect that we could have Canadian teams going deep in honestly every division of this tournament. But we do still have another division left, so I'll throw it back to Theo for the last one.
Before we jump into Masters Open, I just want to know, have you ever watched Modern Family?
A little bit.
Okay. This joke will only resonate. Anyways, I won't say the full joke, but there was a little bit where 2 of the characters, Cam and Mitch, order dinner, and anyways, I won't go through the whole bit. But basically, if you know what I'm talking about, that joke, you know what I'm talking about, because they order food at a certain time and it ages them. So that will be my little tidbit for you to watch that Modern Family episode. Just a quick note on the bracket here, folks. It jumps right into semis, so kind of similar to Masters Women's. It jumps right into semis, but there are consolation games.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It just jumps right into a 5-6 game. Okay, so if you come third in your pool, you're playing for 5th. Sorry, there ain't no 2-3 crossover. That's weird. They're trying to prevent the mileage of these Masters players. Some of them are actually going to be trying out basically a week later. At least the East trial, because the West trial already happened. So the East Masters trial will be happening in December. So some of those players will be trying for that. So maybe less mileage on the legs will help them. The Masters Open, 13 teams, similar setup, 1 of 6, 1 of 7. Top 4 seeds. One of them is Canadian. That's Still. Then there's All Bashed Out, Join or Die, and King Louis. I believe King Louis went to Wamuck.
They did.
I'd have to double check. That name rings familiar. Oh, they did. Fact check ran on the episode from Kelsey Hayden. That's why you're here on the podcast.
They played Dead Circus, so I knew that.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that's the only reason why she knows. That's but I will say this: there's no top USA, like the top. Like I'm talking Boneyard. I'm talking Voltron 2020.
Yep.
Those 2 teams are not in this tournament, so just keep that in mind. Still good out here. I'm sure they use that a lot. They have a lot of players that either played Phoenix or ex-Phoenix, and even some that currently play, like Mike Lee, Carson Turner, Greg Ellis. I didn't know Carson Turner was Masters age. That's crazy. They also got some legends out there like Matt Berg and Keelan Way. And they added someone that, I was always been impressed with, Felix Antoine Dague, as well as Thomas Black. In my opinion, this team could and should win this tournament. So I haven't really given a lot of predictions, but I'm going to be very, and sorry, Dead Circus people, because we're about to talk about you because you're in this pool.
I am a Dead Circus person.
I know. Sorry, Kelsey, but still got the goods out here. So I think they have a good shot. They have King Louis in this pool, Beyondors, which I assume is related to Condors, Dead Circus, a team from Colombia, and Surly out of the U.S. as well. And so Dead Circus in this pool.
You said Dead Circus, a team from Colombia.
Did I say no? Dead Circus, pause. A team from Colombia.
I see.
And Surly. That's where the comma pause comes in. Dead Circus, not from Colombia. They're from the great city of Halifax.
Hell yeah.
They are the 7th seed. They came 2nd at CUC. Hey, that was a great game.
And 2nd, so barely. They split games against Richard and Associates.
Kelsey got to throw that in there.
I'm just saying that if you actually put the scores for the 2 games that they had against Richard and Associates, it's net 0. They won by 1 and then lost by 1. So, they're basically gold medalists as well.
Yeah, we got a little bit of a homer here, but we'll just leave that for for another day. But top scores from CUC: Tyler Smith, Martin James. You're going to see those names being all over the scoreboard at PAUC, as well as
Definitely.
William. Is it Willem?
Willem
Masson?
Mace. I think it actually is Masson, although we didn't know that until the commentator at CUCs said Masson, and we were like, oh, that's wrong. And he was like, no, that's right. We'd always said Mason.
Oh, that's embarrassing for you all.
Yeah.
No big time handler though. Mr. James McKenna not in the house for this
He is
tournament.
not going.
Is what I'm told.
I know that'll be a big loss. He's their O-line superstar handler, but there is a limited amount of vacation time that we can all have in our lives.
Yeah, that's tough.
It was tough. It's just a tough time of the year, but they're still going to do great. They have so many good players. They have someone they didn't have at CUCs that they will have at PAUC is someone named Pierre Daigle, another big time handler, an incredible upwind thrower, which I've heard that it's windy in Dominican Republic. That's what the forecast is telling me.
Sunny skies.
I know it's sunny, but it looks gusty according to the forecast. Okay. So someone like Pierre is going to be really useful. But I know I am a homer for DC. I love DC. They're my boys, but I also think they're a very talented roster, and I think that they could do really, really well. So I really hope that they do.
Yeah, and not to be mixed with DC Truck Stop, of course. Dead Circus.
No, because Dead Circus also are not cheaters like DC Truck Stop. So.
Oh, you're gonna go there on this episode. I like it. We're not gonna go there, but we're gonna keep things moving. We got two more teams to talk about, both from the lovely province of Quebec. The first one is Quack out of Quebec City. They did not attend CUC, but they did go in 2022, if I remember correctly, because I think I called one of their games. David Petipa, who played with Cold for their championship win, is on this team. And they're in Pool A. They got All Bashed Out, Join or Die, a team from Colombia, as well as Domino out of Dominican Republic. And, of course, they also have another team from Quebec, and that's Ensom. So kind of fun that the two Quebec teams get to be in the same pool. So, hey, you travel all this way to play a team that you can play in your region. Like, that's kind of honestly, it kind of sucks. Like, I'm going to be straight up. Yes. It's not the best. I'm just digging up their pool right now. So Ensom, hey, they qualified for U.S. Masters. We talked about this. I talked about this many episodes ago, but that was a real cool accomplishment for them. And so some of those players are on this team. Mathieu Madison and Jean-Lévi Champagne, who's been on the podcast many moons ago. I think this team will have better fortunes than they did at CUC when they came 5 out of 6. I was even asked to go to play for this team. So, the quality is getting low when they're asking me out here to play. So
it's tough time scraping the bottom of the barrel.
It's true. Bottom of the barrel. They had a lot of pickups. It wasn't their full team. So don't take their CUC results as indicative of what they can do here. So that is open, and they're going to have that similar setup where they just have semis right away. So, what this means, though, for DC fans in the audience and whoever else, you got to come in second in your pool. So Dead Circus is going to have to beat, still King Louis Beyondors. They're going to have to beat 2 out of those 3 teams to get into the semis. So pool play matters a lot more in a division like this, whereas remember when we were talking about women's and open earlier, folks, you can come last and still win the tournament. So pool play matters in some of these other divisions. And so you got to come out hot right away. Totally. Which will be very interesting to keep an eye out on. And the last thing we'll talk about is the streaming schedule. Kelsey, I'm going to say this publicly. I was asked to go. Unfortunately, cannot go because of work. So it would have been nice to call some of the teams that I know. So there are a few Canadian teams being streamed, especially on the showcase field. So Danger Doodle is going to be playing on Tuesday, November 28th at 8:30 a.m. against Avalon. So you can catch that. Be it All Too World subscriber. We always promote that. Waral's actually in a game. That's not even a Canadian team, but I think you should watch that one. That one's free to watch on YouTube, so definitely check that one out. They're playing Makua. And then Still is going to be playing on Wednesday, November 29th at 8:30 a.m. I believe this is all going to be Eastern. Oh, no, AT. What's AT? Atlantic time?
Atlantic time. Yeah, interestingly enough, Dominican Republic is actually in the same time zone as Halifax, which I just learned the other day.
Wait, so what does that mean for Eastern? Is that 7:30?
So it's an hour later. It's the same as like me to you right now. So it's 10:15 p.m. here, and it's 9:15 p.m. there.
So 7:30 a.m., get up and watch Still play King Louis. And then stay on at 9:45 a.m. Eastern for 2 Canadian teams going at it, Venus versus Aerosol, free to watch on YouTube. That's really cool for those Montreal players. And then Crash is playing as well. That's a bonus game, so there'll be no commentary. And then Super Dross, I love their logo. Do you see that?
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
you can't see it
sick.
right now. But it has, it's like Super Mario themed. Anyways. And then they play Pandemonium. You're
It's
gonna make me screw
hard.
that up. Pandemonium, 1:30 Atlantic, 12:30 Eastern, whatever other times. And then they got more games coming at you. I think this is the most games I swear they've done at PAUC. Like for
Oh,
sure.
I would say,
There's
for
no
sure.
way.
Yeah.
Like they've done this many because they got some round of 16 games going on. Oh, they're doing round of 16. That's gonna be blowouts. Unless
I
I guess
know.
if they do.
could have thrown
No,
another.
they do 2-3. 2-3.
Women's
2-3 would
Masters.
be not
Oh,
bad.
that's true. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there no Masters games being streamed? There
there's
are,
a few,
right?
but not very many.
Just the finals, it looks like, right?
No, there's on Wednesday. There's a couple.
Okay.
But yeah, there's not very many.
No Stello in there, but we expect them to be far in the thing here. And some teams actually get to finish on Friday. So,
Yes.
oh, lucky. Masters Open, Masters Mixed. You get to just hang out. Oh, lovely.
Yep.
I'm gonna
Like I
party up
said,
on
this is
Friday
a
night.
funny tournament where whenever you're knocked out, the silver lining is going to be so obvious because it's going to be a margarita on the beach. So it's
Unlimited
going to be
steak.
easy to recover.
Yeah. So if you're going to Dominican, stay safe out there. Make sure you wear your sunscreen because your skin probably ain't used to the sun right now because you all inside in the indoors. So have a good time. Kelsey, any final thoughts before you are off on a plane? I think in a couple days, right? You're going to be gone.
Yeah, heading out on Saturday. No, good luck to all the other Canadian teams. I'm sure I'll see many of you there. I hope you guys enjoy the trip. I hope that you enjoy all aspects of the trip, the frisbee and the hang-in and the chillin'. Wear your sunscreen, like Theo said. Eat lots of snacks. Those are always my advice.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you for tuning in. Unfortunately, subscribers, we're not going to have a subscriber only this week. I don't even know if we'll have an episode next week. We'll figure that out. We'll figure it out. If you see an episode, that means an episode happened. But we'll definitely recap PAUC as well. Still trying to figure out college awards. So keep an eye on that. I know I've been saying that for a while. Thank you for tuning in, Kelsey. Thank you for joining from the East Coast. You got to go to sleep because I know it's past your bedtime.
It is.
So we're going to say bye to the viewers at home, or listeners, I should say, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.